Hi, today we are going to talk about the Tesla story. All stocks are story stocks, but some just have a more exciting story. This is Randy Kirk, and we're going to be talking about that today. And listen, if this is content that you find valuable, please like, please comment. I love the comments. I am trying like crazy to respond to all the comments. It's getting harder and harder, but I'll continue to do that as long as I can. Also, if you're interested in being part of our Patreon group, we are studying the future. We are trying to get a good understanding of what's going to happen in the future. I consider myself to be a futurist in this weird way. I really like to think about what is the future going to look like. And comment. That's what I'm looking for. Likes, comments, subscriptions, of course, always help. They let Tesla know, they let YouTube know that you're interested in the channel, which helps them to send it to more people. So the more you like, the more you subscribe, the more you comment, the more people then get to see the video. YouTube just provides it to more people. So story stock. All right. Every stock has a story. Most stocks in the world, the story only gets out to 12 people. And the story probably is fairly bland, like we're going to make a better version of a Frisbee or something. It's not that exciting. You have had over time some companies that the story has been huge. You think of Boeing, you think of United Airlines, you think of Apple Computer is an obvious one, Microsoft, Amazon, they have a huge story, and the story is so huge that the vast majority of the public gets to know some of the story. They may have it completely wrong, but they at least are exposed to the story through the news, through friends, and many, especially retail investors, people who do like to stock pick, are sometimes aware enough of the story to go into and evaluate the company to decide whether or not they want to be a part of the stock investing group. Well, there's probably, I hate to always be hyperbolizing with regard to Tesla, but I don't think, certainly not in my lifetime, there has never been a story stock with a bigger, more obvious, more well-reported on story than Tesla. It is a story stock of story stocks. And part of that is because of the leadership of Elon Musk, because he is always in the news, always making himself available to do long-form interviews with Joe Rogan and with Lex Fridman and with retail investors and so many folks. And he's done these long-form interviews over and over and over again, to the point where the retail investor has an opportunity to really get to know Elon, get to know how he thinks, how he operates, and that just adds to the story. Of course, Elon is a story in himself because of his massive successes. So all of these things add to the story. So going into 2022 and even halfway through 2022, the story was pretty much intact. And the stock, I think, started to fall in 2022, mostly because of macro. But as this year went by and risk came off and the macro was down and the stock started to slide, this is a time when, if there's any bullet holes in the story, if there's anybody hacking away at the story that grabs attention and causes people to think twice, then if the story starts to fail for some people, and we've had a big deal on Twitter, I won't even mention names, we had a big deal on Twitter with regard to a major bull who lost a lot of money because he decided that the story was not still intact. And I thought it was really instructive to see what happened in his mentality as the little chinks in the armor started to come off. Some of those chinks, we know what they were. There was, the whole business with Twitter and Elon buying it and selling stock, and whether he lied when he said that he wouldn't sell more stock. What he actually said was, I have no plans to sell more stock. At the time, he had no plans to sell more stock, but he ended up needing to sell more stock in a way that would have, I don't think he would have ever anticipated, because of the lower valuations that came into the marketplace. As Twitter went down in value, it messed up the entire basis of the purchase. He couldn't get out of it. He had to buy it. So anyway, I'm not trying to provide a defense for Elon, but only to say that the entire Twitter saga was a chink in the armor. Whether the stock went down at all, 5%, 10% because of the Twitter saga, maybe, maybe not. Who can prove it one way or the other? But it was a chink in the armor. Then you had the entire business of whether Elon Musk is a liberal, a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, how he feels about this issue or that issue, and his making it clear about some of the ways that he felt on some issues, recommending that people vote Republican in the last election so there will be balance between the executive and between the legislature. And people say, oh my gosh, well, I don't think, again, maybe it mattered 5% or 10%. Maybe 12 people didn't end up buying a Tesla because of Elon's political viewpoint. I don't know. We have no way of really finding out. However, it was a chink in the armor because some people said, oh my gosh, this is going to damage the brand. They can be right or wrong. It really doesn't matter. What matters is it affected their mentality. Then you had no gigafactory announcements. So there was supposed to be 2 gigafactory announcements. Well, sometimes governments don't do things as fast as people would like. Sometimes you can't make the decision. Apparently in Mexico, there was issues with energy supply, and these things come up. And so it puts off your decision. Maybe the economy helped make a decision harder to make at the time. Not 100% sure, but it was one more chink in the armor. If you have a growth like crazy situation, people are looking for proof that the growth is going to continue at the numbers that are being suggested. And it was not clear that there was still this huge growth in place. So that was one more chink in the armor. And then at the end of the year, of course, we had the final chink in the armor, which was the demand. The demand was gone. There was no more demand for the product. There was all kinds of reasons. We don't need to rehash those reasons at the end of the year, why demand could have been lower. But that was a chink in the armor. All of these things, you start adding them up in your head. And what happens emotionally is at some point, you lose confidence in the stock. You lose confidence in Elon Musk. You lose confidence in the story that's being told about the company. So the story is no longer as compelling, exciting, interesting, and you sell, or you sell part, or you decide that you are not going to buy any more options. And so whatever it is, the result is the stock goes down as a result of the story not still being intact. Well, I believe that that's the biggest reason for at least the last 100 points. I think there's a good reason to believe that the stock went from 400 to 300 and maybe even to 200 based on the macro, that would be in a kind of a normal reduction on a big time stock in a really weird economy where the Fed was going to be increasing rates, and that was going to increase the price, the actual net amount that people would be paying per month on their purchase of their vehicle. And inflation was affecting the cost of the raw materials. All of that, I think, could easily have accounted for the 400 to 200 drop. But the 200 to 100 drop, I think that was the story. I think it was emotional, and people were saying, I don't buy the story anymore, or I don't buy it as much as I did. I'm nervous about the economy, and I'm nervous about the stock market in general. So this is a good time for me to exit. And people tend to exit at the bottom. This is a known fact. People get in at the top and people exit at the bottom. It's the opposite, of course, of what you should be doing. I was buying last week, before it got to the 150 level, I was buying in Monday and Tuesday. I'd still be buying in now. In fact, I probably will be buying in now, especially if there's a little dip. But if there's no dip, I'll just buy it higher. Anyway, so what can we expect going forward? There's 2 things. One is, I think the story has been being put back together, if you will. So we know that Elon cut the price like crazy, and cutting the price like crazy, the first reaction by some was, oh my gosh, it's true the demand isn't there. And oh my gosh, it's true, it's going to affect margins dramatically. And what are we going to do? This is going to, but quite frankly, the market took it really well. And this created a new story that I think is very valuable going forward. And that is the story that Tesla has pricing power like no other company. So you saw bulls and bears alike on CNBC and other stations that were talking about the fact that Tesla has pricing power because of their margins. This is a great story. And I think this will be important going forward. So then the second thing that happened, which I predicted, I stated 2 weeks ago, as soon as the pricing cuts were made, I said, Tesla will now start to feed back. They'll raise the prices over the next quarter or the next 2 quarters. They'll start raising prices as they can or as they need to because the sales are great. And that's what's already happened. You've already seen increases in the price of the Y. You've already seen, and you saw a slight decrease actually on the 3. And I don't know if you noticed it, but also exactly as per my prediction, I mean, it could be more precise, they had lowered the lease cost on a Model 3 starting at $399. That was about a week or so ago. And I said, gee whiz, that's pretty close to what I had suggested a couple of months ago. And then I said, but they could probably bring that down to $349, which in $350, I think I said $349, which over the weekend, they reduced it to $359. So all of this is evidence that Tesla is going to be playing with the prices. I think they'll play by market, they'll play by product, and they'll make decisions all the time unless they get to a place where they feel they can have a steady state on pricing. But for now, I think you'll see ups, you'll see downs, and all of these will be tending to put back the margins, even as the company is cutting, their costs are going down. They'll be putting margins back up on the sell side as well. This will all be great for the story. So those issues on the story are going to be really positive. The win on Friday was a huge benefit to the story. Not only was the win on the Twitter statement, that the funding is secured. Not only was that great in terms of just momentum and positivity for Elon and for Tesla in terms of the winning, and any kind of win is going to be a positive momentum item. But in this particular case, what you heard was testimony after testimony after testimony that the funding was secured, that Elon knew the funding was secured, he believed the funding was secured, that there was no lie, there was no hyperbole, this was not something that was designed to manipulate anything, and that is good for Elon's reputation. I'm going to do another video coming up on, is Elon a liar? I bet you can't wait for that one. I'm going to go deep into what is a lie and what kind of lies are people accusing him of and whatnot. And we're going to take that apart one by one. But what happened on Friday would have confirmed that anybody that's paying close attention, institutionals and the pundits on the various stations, even the YouTubers, this was really confirmation that Elon was telling the truth the entire time and helps his reputation, which I think is obviously always going to be huge. Okay, so that's another help to the story. Also helping the story, Starship is supposed to launch in March. People will have their mind on the fact that this is finally going to happen. It's a small percentage of the investing public, but it's another momentum builder. That Elon is one more potential success. Now, hey, it may blow up on the pad, but it will be evidence that there's momentum in a positive way. Any kind of gigafactory announcements in the next month or two would be momentum shifting, adding to the story. Big thing adding to the story will probably be Investor Day on March 1st. I think there's a lot of people on Twitter that are very excited about this upcoming date. I do plan to do a video on what I'm hoping to see on Investor Day and questions that I would like to have answered between now and then, or certainly no later than then. But that momentum there's so much that could happen on Investor Day. Basically, I'm looking for a couple, 3 things, which we think are almost 100% going to happen. One is, what is the story on Gen 3? What is this platform that he's talking about? what is this is this just for robotaxi, or is there a $30,000, $25,000 car that's going to be built? When is that going to happen? Are we going to get to see a picture of the design of this new product, not just the platform, but the product itself? Elon also mentioned another commercial truck of some kind. Are we going to get to see something on that? Some kind of ideation, some kind of picture, some kind of suggestion, a little more tease at least on this commercial vehicle. And he also teased that there might be other products available if there was enough battery supply. Will we get to see any more teasing about some of these other products? Which brings us to batteries. Batteries are the underpinning aspect of the entire story, and it will become more and more so over time. So we need to know how the battery ramp is. We need more information on the 4680 battery ramp at Austin. Where are we on this? Is it moving at a pace? Can we hear a little bit more expectations about what that pace might be, when we might be up to 50% of capacity, up to 50 gigawatt hours, or gigawatts? I'm always forgetting which, I think gigawatts of battery production. So that's coming up on, hopefully all that'll happen on the 1st. Maybe there'll be other surprises as well. Maybe they'll actually roll out the final version of the Cybertruck. That would be kind of exciting and would again give us some momentum. One of the things that was a chink in the armor, according to some, was that maybe the Cybertruck, any volume production is for next year. That is not my read at all, but it's a chink in the armor. I'd like to have that story reversed. Sure, it's okay to set low expectations and then beat the expectations, but I think the story, as I still understand it, is we will start to see some product off the line before the end of second quarter, at the very worst into the beginning of third quarter, and that there will be a continuous ramp in serious production by the end of this year. So I think that's a chink. I'd like to see that part of the story made more clear, certainly no later than on March 1. Robotaxi. I don't think that Robotaxi was much of the story last year. I don't think many people were adding Robotaxi into their plan or into how much they were valuing the stock. I think that the entire community, including hyperbulls, Uber bulls, optimists like me, we've been hearing about, FSD being fully 100% ready to go by the end of the year for a number of years now. I guess 2019 was the first time. So end of 2022 comes, it's still not ready to go. Version 11, Elon just tweeted out about it today saying, look, it was way more complicated than we thought, but we think we've got it all online. We should see version 11 by the end of this coming week. That could be a great addition to the story. So I think right now it's not in the story. What do you think? Comment below. Do you think anybody is figuring Robotaxi into their theory of the value of Tesla right now? I mean, not just the street, not just, investment, in the, what do you call it, investment community, but even the retail investors and the hyperbulls. I think it's out of our mind right now. It's not part of the story right now, but I think it will be if the version 11 comes out and the testers start putting out YouTube videos showing a dramatic improvement in the quality. Now, maybe that won't happen in February. Maybe it'll take version 11.4 and 5 and 6 before we really see the benefits of this new combination stack that we've been waiting for so long. Part of the story, you might remember, is that Tony Seba and Cathie Wood, they're still leading the charge that we're at the beginning of this S-curve of adoption on electric cars. We have passed 10% worldwide. 5% to 10% is where the S-curve is supposed to start. We have passed 5% in the United States. We're at 6% and growing, probably going to go to 10% this year, just in the United States. Some countries, are at 90%. China is at 30-something%. So the S-curve, we're definitely in the beginning of the S-curve. And while lots and lots of people that are pundits and lots of people that are working for investment companies and people that are making statements about Tesla's future are not following Cathie Wood or Tony Seba. Foolishly, they're not following them. So they don't really understand the S-curve. But when the S-curve starts to hit, when we start to see the demand is just crazy across the globe, I think then it's going to start becoming part of the story for everybody. There's also this idea of S-curves within S-curves. So you combine the S-curve of the automobile, the electric car, with the S-curve of the battery coming down in cost dramatically with increase in production. You get the S-curve of AI affecting the car, affecting the factory, affecting the software of the car itself, affecting the robotaxi capability. So you get these S-curves that are impacting other S-curves. Now all of a sudden you get a confluence taking place, and that story should become something that the investing public will become aware of, even the investment houses, the mutual funds, et cetera. So that is a real possibility that we can see happening in the course of this year. Let's see. Yes, I think, let's see. I'm trying to look just real quick to see if there's other things here. I think that, oh, I know. And then the energy story. So for those who are on Twitter and following this, or following me, watching my YouTube videos, reading my book, the Elon Musk mission, we talked about the factory in Lathrop and the capacity there and the potential there. Well, the Twitter folks that have been writing about this and researching about this, the indication is that this is going to be pretty phenomenal, and that it looks as if we might be looking at something where the profits of Lathrop-like facilities could get us to an equal amount of profit for energy storage as we now have for auto rapidly. Maybe in 2024, it will come together and it'll be equal. This is obviously huge. And when the investors, when the investment houses, when the mutual fund folks, when they start to get to where they understand that and believe it, and they start putting it into their numbers, we're talking about a doubling of the stock, basically is what we're looking at. So you don't need robotaxis, you don't need Optimus Robot, you don't need Dojo as a service, you don't need insurance, you don't need any of the services, you don't need anything else. Just the energy growth could be enough to double the value of the company. And we could be looking at going from the $400 a share that I'm predicting by the end of the year, could be $800 by the end of the year if people begin to believe the energy story. And instead of $700 next year, we could be looking at $1,500 next year without any automated vehicles at all. Okay, so once again, I just encourage you to please comment, give me updates on what you think about what I just said. Knock the crud out of it. If you don't believe it, just tell me so. If you think I missed something, add that to the comments as well. If you like this kind of commentary, obviously, I'd like to hear that as well so that I can make decisions about future videos. Like, subscribe, join Patreon, and hey, it's been great talking to you today.